Before I get in today's episode, I want to give a gentle warning. This podcast is for reflection, conversation, awareness, and encouragement. It is not therapy, it's not counseling, it is not a diagnosis. It is not emergency support, and I'm sharing from my own lived experience, my own healing journey, and the things that have been placed on my heart. If anything I say today feels heavy, triggering, or too close to home, please pause, step away, breathe, and take care of yourself. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911 or your local emergency number. If you are experiencing DV, abuse, suicidal thoughts, or a crisis situation, please reach out to emergency services, a crisis line, a DV hotline, or a trusted local resource that can help you safely. You do not have to listen to this all at once. You do not have to force yourself through anything that feels too painful. Take what helps you, leave what does not. And above all, please protect your safety. Today, I want to talk about something that came to my mind, and I want to ask a question. Have you ever been in a place that was supposed to feel like home, but it felt more like a trap? Maybe it was your house. Maybe it was your boyfriend's house. Maybe it was your partner's house. Maybe it was your husband's house. You could have had separation, something going on. Maybe it was just the place where you laid your head at night, the place where your clothes were, the place where your child slept, the place where people on the outside may have assumed you were safe, but you were not safe. Have you ever been in that place and silently wished somebody would knock on the door? Not because you were expecting company, not because you wanted to talk, not because you wanted to entertain visitors, but because you needed an interruption. You needed somebody to come by, somebody to call, somebody to knock on the door, somebody to hear something, somebody to sense something was wrong, somebody to show up at just the right moment and break whatever was happening behind that door. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been inside a home but still felt like you were begging silently for rescue? I ask that because I remember being there. I remember what it felt like to be in a place that should have been safe, but my spirit knew danger was in the room. I remember what it felt like to hope somebody would come. I remember what it felt like to realize that nobody was coming in that exact moment. And I remember what it felt like to have to make the decision to save myself. There was a night in my life that I will never forget. My dog was outside. I had taken him out for a potty break. He did not like my ex-husband, so I was the one that would take him out and bring him in. My dog knew something. Sometimes I think animals sense what we try to explain away. He did not care for him, and I believe he knew there was something about that energy that was not right. I had let the dog outside, and shortly after that, my husband attacked me. He literally tried to strangle me. He also tried to put me through a table. It was violent. It was terrifying. It was one of those moments where your whole body knows that this is this is not just an argument. This is not just anger. This this is not just somebody losing their temper. I was in real danger. And when people have never been in that situation, they sometimes think that they know what they would do. They say, I would have left. I would have fought back. I would have called the police. I would have grabbed my child and ran. I would have never let somebody do that to me. But in that moment, when someone is attacking you, when your air is being threatened, when your body is in survival mode, your mind is not moving like a calm person watching from the outside. Your mind is moving second by second. You're trying to breathe. You're trying to think. You're trying to survive. You're trying to figure out what move will get you unalived and what move might get you free. And in the middle of all of that, I was thinking about my dog outside. I was thinking about trying to get to the door and let him in, but I realized I could not do it. I could not get that door open without possibly getting myself unalived. I could not save myself and get the dog. And then I thought about my child. My baby was asleep in her room. That is the part that still sits heavy with me. I was being attacked, and my baby was in that house, and I could not get to her. I could not protect her the way a mother wants to protect her child in that moment. I could not scoop her up and run with her like people might imagine. I had to make a decision that no mother ever wants to make. I had to leave my daughter in that house long enough to save my own life so I could go get help and come back for her. And I need people to understand how painful that kind of decision is. Because from the outside, somebody might ask, how could you leave your child? But from the inside, in that moment, the question was different. The question was, if I do not get out of this house in one piece, alive, who is going to help my child? Sometimes survival forces you to make decisions that will break your heart even while they save your life. Sometimes the choice is not between good and bad. Sometimes the choice is between terrible and worse. Sometimes the choice is, do I stay here and possibly be unalived, or do I run long enough to get help? And I ran. I got away. I ran out of the house scared, shaken, and desperate for help. I went to my next door neighbor's house, but they would not open the door. And I want to sit there for a moment because people talk about community, people talk about helping, people talk about what they would do. But when you are the person on the other side of the door, terrified and needing help, and that door does not open, it does something to you. I do not know if they were scared. I do not know if they did not want to get involved. I do not know if they did not understand what was happening. I do not know what they thought. But I know what I felt. I felt alone. I felt desperate. I felt like I was running for my life, and the first door I went to stayed closed. So I went to the house next to theirs. And as God would have it, a woman was coming home from work. It was a little after 11 o'clock at night. I don't know all the details of her day. I don't know if she had worked late, if she was tired, if she was coming from a long shift, or if she had any idea that when she pulled up that night, she was about to become part of somebody else's survival story. But she saw me. She looked at my face and she allowed me to come in her house. She did not make me stand outside and explain everything first. She did not ask me 100 questions. She did not judge me. She just saw that I needed help. And I told her, my baby is at home. My husband is trying to unalive me and I need help. So we called the police. I waited there while the police went to my house. We could see them go. I saw them when they arrived. And eventually I was able to go back to my home, to my baby. Now, during that time, sometimes police would say something like, this is a domestic situation. Grab a few things and go. You know, you have just a few minutes. And many women know what that feels like, to be told to grab a few things from your own home, from your own life, and leave quickly because the situation is dangerous. But that night, my husband, ex-husband now, but my husband was so arrogant, so cocky, and so disrespectful to the officers that they let me take more time. They let me get quite a few items for myself and my child, and they let me take my car. That may not sound like a big deal, but it was. My husband loved that car. We had other cars, but at that time, he liked that car because that was a Corvette and it was a manual. I didn't know how to drive it that well. I still don't know how I let him talk me into trading my Camaro for that car. So I had a Camaro and I ended up with this Corvette that I could barely drive because it was a stick shift. That'll be a whole nother story of how I got talked into that. But that night I drove it. I learned because I had to learn. I didn't burn the clutch. I did what I had to do. And sometimes that is what survival is. You learn while you are shaking. You move while you are afraid. You do what you have to do because there is no perfect moment, no perfect plan, and no perfect rescue. So I tell that story to ask this. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been somewhere that was supposed to feel safe, but you were wishing somebody would knock on the door? Have you ever hoped for that interruption, that phone call, a neighbor, a police call, a family member, a friend, a dog barking, a child waking up, anything that might stop what was happening? Have you ever been in a moment where you were silently praying, Lord, please let somebody come? And have you ever had to face the truth that nobody was coming in that exact moment? Not because nobody loved you, not because nobody cared, not because your life did not matter, but because sometimes people do not know what is happening behind closed doors. Sometimes they do not see the signs. Sometimes they hear but do not respond. Sometimes they are just afraid to. Sometimes they do not want to get involved. And sometimes the person who has to make the first move toward rescue is you. That does not mean it is fair. That does not mean it is right. That does not mean victims should have to save themselves. But sometimes, in that one moment, you have to make a decision before anybody else can help you. That is why I struggle when people say, why didn't she just leave? Because as I've said before, leaving is not always just packing a bag and walking out the door. Sometimes leaving is dangerous. Sometimes leaving is when the violence escalates. Sometimes leaving means you have no money. Sometimes leaving means you have nowhere to go. Sometimes leaving means your child is asleep in the next room. Sometimes leaving means your dog is outside and your whole life is inside. Sometimes leaving means running without your purse, without your keys, without your shoes, without your plan, without your pride, and with nothing but the hope that somebody will open a door. Sometimes leaving means making a choice that other people may not understand because they were not the one being strangled. They were not the one being threatened. They were not the one trying to calculate every second. They were not the one wondering, if I go left, will I make it? If I scream, will it make him angrier? If I fight, will it get worse? If I run, can I make it to the door? If I stay, will I be unalived? That is the reality of DV. It is not always screaming. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it's waiting for the right second to move. Sometimes it's praying your child does not wake up to see what is going on, to see that your husband is trying to unalive her mother. Sometimes it's hoping the dog's barking will distract him. Sometimes it's looking at a door and knowing that door is the difference between life and death. And sometimes, even when you make it out the door, you still have to find somebody willing to open theirs. That is why I'm asking today, have you ever been there? Have you ever felt trapped in a place other people thought was your home? Have you ever been lying next to somebody, sitting across from somebody, standing in the same room with somebody, and realizing you were not safe? Have you ever wished somebody could see what was really happening? Have you ever wished somebody would ask the right question? Have you ever wished somebody would notice the fear behind your smile? Have you ever wished somebody would say, are you okay? And really mean it? Because many women are not just staying because they do not know better. Many women are surviving. Many women are calculating. Many women are trying to keep the peace until they can figure out a way out. Many women are protecting children, pets, family, finances, housing, and their own lives all the same time. And yes, there are men who experience abuse too. There are people in all kinds of relationships who know what fear feels like behind closed doors. But today, I'm speaking from the place I know. I'm speaking as a woman who lived through DV and knows what it feels like to be in your own life and still feel unsafe. And I want to say something to the women listening who have been there. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You're not crazy. You're not selfish for wanting to live. You're not a bad mother because you had to run for help. You're not less of a woman because you were afraid. You're not less worthy because someone tried to break you. You survived something that nobody should have to survive. And survival does not always look pretty. Survival can look like shaking hands, because mine were shaking. Survival can look like crying in a stranger's house. I did. Survival can look like leaving everything behind. I have. Survival can look like driving a car you barely know how to drive because that is the only way out. I did it. Survival can look like making the hardest decision of your life in a matter of seconds. And sometimes survival starts before healing ever begins because healing is what comes later. First, you have to live. First, you have to breathe. First, you have to make it out. First, you have to get help. First, you have to survive the night. And if you are listening to this and you are still in a situation like that, I want to be careful with my words. I am not telling you to make a sudden move that could put you in more danger. I am not telling you to confront someone who is unsafe. I'm not telling you to announce your plans to someone who may hurt you. What I am saying is this: your life matters. Your safety matters. Your children's safety matters. And if you can, please reach out to a safe person, a DV resource, a hotline, a shelter, a law enforcement, a counselor, a trusted friend, a family member, or someone who can help you think through a safety plan. Sometimes leaving has to be planned carefully. Sometimes help has to be quiet. Sometimes you cannot tell everybody your next move. But please know this: you deserve to be safe. You deserve to lay your head down without fear. You deserve to be in a home that feels like peace, not danger. And if you have already survived something like this, I want you to give yourself grace. There may still be moments when you replay it. There may still be questions you ask yourself. There may still be guilt. There may still be grief. There may still be things that come back to you years later. You may think about the child in the room, the dog outside, the neighbor who did not open the door, the woman who did, the police, the car, the fear. The moment you realize you had to run. And sometimes people want you to hurry up and be over it. But healing does not always work that way. Sometimes memories do not disappear just because time passed. Some memories become part of the testimony. Some memories become the reason you speak. Some memories become the reason somebody else feels less alone. That is why I keep talking. That is why I keep sharing. That is why I keep trying to get the message out, because there may be somebody listening who has never told anyone what happened behind their door. There may be somebody listening who is still waiting for a knock. There may be somebody listening who has been blaming herself for the choice she had to make to survive. And I want her to hear me today. You did what you had to do. You survived the best way you knew how. And sometimes rescue does not come the way we imagine. Sometimes rescue is not a loud knock at the door. Sometimes rescue is not someone bursting in at the perfect time. Sometimes rescue starts with a decision made through tears. Sometimes rescue starts when your spirit whispers, "Run!" Sometimes rescue starts when you choose life even though You are terrified. Sometimes rescue starts when you get to one door and it does not open, but you keep going until another one does. So again, I ask, have you ever been there? Have you ever waited, wished, and prayed for someone to come rescue you? Have you ever realized in that moment that you had to rescue yourself long enough for help to reach you? If you have, I see you. I believe you. And I pray that you know your life is still worth protecting, your voice is still worth hearing, your story is still worth telling, and your healing is still possible. Protect your peace, speak your truth, and continue to heal.